Ma'am, would you mind if I help you cross?
Oh, my child, thank you so much. Thank you so much, my child. You are so kind. What is your name?
My name is Nora.
Do you work around here?
Yes, the cafe over there. Are you sure you are fine? Or would you want me to take you home or do something else for you?
No, thank you. I'm fine. Someone is coming to get me.
Okay,
Take good care of yourself.
thank you.
Nora gave her one last wave before turning away. She had no idea who the woman was. She didn't ask for her name. She didn't ask where she lived. She didn't ask for money. She simply saw an elderly woman struggling to cross a busy road in the rain and decided to help. Nora thought she had done nothing more than perform a small act of kindness on an ordinary afternoon. She had no idea that the woman she had just helped was Evelyn Hayes, the mother of one of the richest men in the city, and that those few minutes in the rain were about to change her life forever. Nora pulled her damp jacket closer around herself and continued toward the bus stop. She was already thinking about work. Her shift had been exhausting, and the money in her purse wasn't enough to cover everything waiting for her at home. Rent was due soon. Her shoes were worn. Her cafe uniform was still damp from the rain. And tomorrow she would have to wake up and do it all over again. She had no idea that somewhere behind her, the woman she had just helped was waiting for someone very important to arrive. A few minutes later, a sleek black SUV turned onto the street. The driver pulled over beside Evelyn. He stepped out immediately and opened the rear door. "Mrs. Hayes." Evelyn smiled as she entered the vehicle. "Thank you, Daniel." Inside the SUV, a man in a dark suit lowered the tablet in his hands. Victor Hayes looked at his mother. "Mom, what happened?" Evelyn settled into the seat beside him. "Something wonderful." Victor raised an eyebrow. "Wonderful?" "A young woman helped me cross the road." He glanced toward the window. "Someone you know?" "No." "Then why were you crossing alone?" Evelyn gave him a look. "I am still capable of crossing a road," Victor sighed. "That's not what I meant." "I know," she smiled. Then her expression softened. Her name was Nora. Victor looked at her. "Nora? That's all I know." "What did she do?" Evelyn described everything: the rain, the traffic, the way Nora had protected her from the cars, the fact that she never asked for anything. Victor listened without interrupting. When his mother finished, he looked out the window. "She didn't ask who you were?" "No." "Didn't recognize you?" "No." "Didn't ask for money?" Evelyn laughed. "Victor, not everyone knows my face." "Most people do." Apparently Nora doesn't. That made him smile, just slightly. What did she look like? Evelyn described her. Young, tired, simple clothes, a cafe uniform, kind eyes. Victor nodded and looked at her. "You should not have been out in this weather." Evelyn smiled. "And you shouldn't spend every waking hour worrying about me." "I'll consider that." "You won't." She laughed softly. The SUV disappeared into the rain. The next morning, Evelyn sat in her living room with a blanket around her shoulders. She was still thinking about Nora. When Victor entered, she immediately looked up. "You're here early," Evelyn smiled. "Victor." "Yes?" "I want to find her." He stopped. "The girl?" "Nora." "You don't know her last name?" "No." "Where she lives?" "No." "Where she works?" She wore a cafe uniform. Victor stared at her. "You want me to find one woman in a city full of cafes because she helped you cross a road?" "Yes." He looked at his mother. Then he smiled. "All right." Evelyn blinked. "Really?" "Really." Victor made one call. "Find out which cafes operate around the intersection where my mother was yesterday. Ask discreetly about a young woman named Nora. She was working an evening shift and left around the time of the rain." He ended the call. Evelyn watched him. You didn't even hesitate." "My mother asked," she smiled. "That's my son." Hours passed. Then Victor's phone buzzed. He answered. "Yes?" A voice spoke on the other end. Victor's expression changed. "You're certain?" He listened. Then he looked at his mother. "We found her." Evelyn sat forward. "What is her name?" "Nora Bennett." "Where does she work?" "Harbor Lane Cafe." Evelyn smiled. "Nora." Victor repeated the name quietly. For reasons he couldn't explain, it stayed in his mind. That evening, Nora finished another exhausting shift. She wiped down the last table, counted her tips, and checked the time. She had just enough money for her bus fare. She stepped outside. Then she stopped. A black SUV was parked across the street. A professionally dressed man stepped out. He approached her. "Miss Bennett?" Nora frowned. "Yes?" "My name is Daniel. I'm a driver for Mrs. Evelyn Hayes." Nora's heart skipped. "Evelyn Hayes?" "Yes." The elderly woman from the rain. Nora looked at the vehicle. "Why?" Daniel smiled politely. "She would like to see you." Nora stared at him. She had no idea that accepting that invitation would change everything. The SUV moved quietly through the city. Nora sat in the back seat with her hands folded tightly in her lap. She had never ridden in a vehicle this expensive before. She kept looking out the window. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. Daniel glanced at her through the mirror. "Mrs. Hayes' home." Nora swallowed. "Why does she want to see me?" "I believe she wants to thank you." "I already told her she didn't have to." Daniel smiled. "Mrs. Hayes rarely does what people tell her." Nora almost laughed. That sounded familiar. 20 minutes later, the SUV turned through enormous iron gates. Nora's mouth fell slightly open. A long driveway stretched toward a mansion surrounded by perfectly trimmed gardens. Lights glowed beneath tall stone columns. She suddenly became painfully aware of her clothes, her simple blouse, her inexpensive shoes, her old handbag. "What am I doing here?" she whispered. Daniel opened the door. "You'll be fine." Nora stepped out. The front doors opened, and there she was, Evelyn. "Nora!" The warmth in her voice immediately eased Nora's fear. Nora smiled. "Mrs. Hayes." "Come here, child." Evelyn hugged her. Nora stood stiffly for a moment before returning the embrace. "I've been waiting to see you." "I didn't know you were—" Nora looked around. "You," Evelyn laughed. "Does that make a difference?" "No." "Good," Nora smiled. They walked into the sitting room. Everything was beautiful. But Evelyn didn't seem interested in showing off the house. She sat beside Nora. "You helped me when you thought I was nobody." Nora shook her head. "I helped you because you needed help." "Exactly." Evelyn took her hand. "That's why I wanted to see you." A door opened. Nora turned. Victor Hayes entered. He wore a dark suit, no tie, and carried a tablet under one arm. He stopped when he saw her. For a second, neither spoke. Victor had expected a young woman who might be nervous around wealth. Instead, Nora looked uncomfortable but composed. He walked toward them. "Nora Bennett." "Mr. Hayes." "My mother has told me about you." Nora glanced at Evelyn. "She exaggerated." "I don't think she did." Victor held out an envelope. "This is for you." Nora stared at it. She didn't take it. "What is it?" "A job offer." Her eyes widened. "What?" Evelyn smiled. "The Hayes Foundation is expanding several community programs. I want you to work with me." Nora shook her head immediately. "I don't understand." "You don't need to." "I mean, why me?" Evelyn squeezed her hand. "Because I saw how you treated someone who couldn't give you anything." Nora looked down. "I was just helping." "And that's exactly why." Victor placed the envelope on the table. The position is legitimate. Good salary, benefits, training. You would assist my mother with community outreach and charity programs. Nora stared at the envelope. Her mind immediately went to rent, food, transportation, the unpaid bills inside her handbag. She looked at Evelyn. I don't want anyone thinking I took advantage of you. They won't. And I don't want charity. Victor spoke quietly. Neither do we. Nora looked at him. This isn't charity, it's employment. She slowly picked up the envelope. Thank you. Evelyn smiled. Welcome to the family. Nora laughed nervously. Not the family. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Not yet. Victor gave his mother a look. Mom, she laughed. Nora didn't notice the way Victor's expression softened. The following Monday, Nora stood outside the Hayes Foundation. The building was made almost entirely of glass. People in expensive suits moved through the entrance carrying laptops and folders. Nora looked at her own shoes. Then she straightened her shoulders. She walked inside. A woman in a navy blazer approached her. Miss Bennett? Yes. I'm Grace Miller, HR Director. They shook hands. Welcome. Thank you. Grace led her through the building. This is the executive wing. Your primary responsibility will be assisting Mrs. Hayes with community programs. You'll organize schedules, communicate with local partners, help review applications, and assist during outreach events. Nora nodded. I can do that, Grace smiled. I believe you can. But not everyone was smiling. By lunchtime, Nora had heard the whispers. That's her. The cafe girl? Apparently, Mrs. Hayes personally hired her. How did she get that position? Nora kept working. She had spent enough of her life being judged. She wasn't going to waste energy answering people who didn't know her. Then Vanessa Cole entered the room. Her heels clicked across the floor. She wore a perfectly tailored suit and carried a folder beneath one arm. She had worked for the foundation for 6 years. She knew every executive, every donor, every system. Most importantly, she believed Victor trusted her. Until Nora arrived. Vanessa stopped beside Nora's desk. So you're Nora? Nora looked up. Yes? Vanessa glanced at her clothes. Interesting. Nora smiled politely. Nice to meet you. Vanessa didn't smile back. I hope you understand that this isn't a cafe. Nora's fingers paused. I understand. Good. Vanessa walked away. Nora watched her go. Something about the woman's tone stayed with her. The following day, Vanessa returned. She placed a stack of files on Nora's desk. These need to be organized. Okay. And this one is urgent. She pointed to a blue folder. Send it to the donor distribution list before noon. Nora opened it. Everything looked official. Names, budgets, event schedules. I'll do it, Vanessa smiled. Make sure you send the entire folder. She walked away. Nora checked everything 3 times. Then she sent the email. At 11:43, her phone rang. At 11:45, another one did. By 11:48, people were running through the hallway. What happened? Who sent that document? Why did the donors receive internal planning information? Nora stepped out of the computer room. Her stomach dropped. What? A staff member stared at her. The donor list received confidential planning documents. Nora's face went pale. But she looked toward Vanessa's desk. Empty. Then a voice came from behind her. Nora, Victor, she turned. His expression was calm, too calm. Come to my office. She followed him. The door closed. Nora stood before his desk. I'm sorry. Victor didn't respond. Sir, I didn't know the file was confidential. Vanessa gave it to me and told me to send it. Who? Vanessa. Victor leaned back. Did she tell you exactly what to send? Yes. What did you do? I followed her instructions. He studied her. Nora's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I know. She looked up. You do? Victor nodded. Because the file you received and the file that was supposed to be sent are different. Nora froze. What? Someone replaced it. Her breathing stopped. Victor leaned forward. This wasn't your mistake. Then whose was it? I don't know yet. Nora wiped her cheek. Victor's voice softened. But I'm going to find out. For the first time since arriving at the foundation, Nora felt something she hadn't expected. Protection. Not because she was powerful, not because she had money, because someone believed her. Victor stood. From now on, if anyone gives you something involving confidential information, you bring it directly to mine. Nora nodded. Yes, sir. She reached the door. Nora, she turned. Don't let anyone make you believe you don't belong here. She looked at him for a moment. Then she smiled. Thank you. When she left, Victor remained standing behind his desk. He picked up the suspicious document. Something was wrong, and he intended to discover what. Across the hallway, Vanessa watched through the glass. Her face was expressionless, but her hand tightened around her phone. Nora had survived the first trap. Vanessa wasn't finished. The next several days passed quietly. Too quietly. Nora continued working. Victor continued investigating. Vanessa continued smiling, but underneath the polished surface of the foundation, something was moving. Victor discovered that the confidential document had been accessed twice before Vanessa gave it to Nora. The first access belonged to Nora's workstation. The second belonged to an executive terminal. Nora couldn't have accessed the second system. She didn't even have permission. Victor asked the technology department to check the security logs. One timestamp had been altered. Someone had tried to erase the evidence. Victor stared at the screen. Who has administrative access? The technician hesitated. Several senior employees. Names? A list appeared. Vanessa's name was on it. Victor said nothing. He wanted more. Meanwhile, Nora was becoming closer to Evelyn. Every Thursday, they visited one of the foundation's community centers. Nora spoke with families. She listened to parents. She read applications. She noticed things executives often missed. One afternoon, a mother approached them with her little boy. We need help with his school fees. Nora looked at the boy's worn backpack. How long has he been out of school? 3 weeks? Nora turned to Evelyn. Can we help? Evelyn smiled. That's why you're here. Nora crouched beside the boy. What subject do you like? The boy smiled. Science. Nora laughed. Then you better get back to school. The boy hugged her. Evelyn watched quietly. Later, she told Victor about it. She has something rare. Victor nodded. I know. You like her? He looked up. Mom. I didn't say anything. You just did. Evelyn smiled. Victor returned to his tablet. But he couldn't deny it. Nora was different. She didn't treat him like a billionaire. She didn't flatter him. She didn't try to impress him. Sometimes she forgot he was in the room. That was precisely what made him notice her. Then came the gala. It was the biggest event on the foundation's calendar. Hundreds of guests were expected. Millions could be raised. Nora had spent 2 weeks helping organize the event. Evelyn insisted she attend. You worked for this night. Nora shook her head. I'll look ridiculous. You will look like yourself. That's what I'm afraid of. Evelyn laughed. You don't need diamonds to have dignity. On the night of the gala, Nora stood at the entrance of the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung above her. Tables were decorated with flowers. Guests arrived wearing designer gowns and tailored suits. Nora looked down at herself. Her dress was simple, elegant but simple. She suddenly wanted to leave. Then Victor approached. You came. Nora nodded. Evelyn insisted. I know. He looked at her. You look beautiful. She blinked. Thank you. And uncomfortable. She laughed softly. That obvious? To me. Something about the way he said it made her smile. You'll be fine. he told her. Then he walked away. Across the room, Vanessa watched. Her expression hardened. Later, Nora was carrying a tray of glasses when someone bumped her. Hard. The tray tilted. Glass shattered across the marble floor. The entire ballroom went silent. Nora froze. Then someone laughed. Another guest whispered. Vanessa stepped closer. Careful. Nora looked at her. Vanessa smiled. Perhaps this environment is a little beyond you. The words hit harder than the crash. Nora looked around. Hundreds of eyes. She couldn't breathe. She turned and hurried outside. The garden terrace was quiet. Nora pressed both hands against the railing. Tears rolled down her face. I shouldn't be here. A voice came behind her. You didn't break those glasses. She turned. Victor stood several feet away. I embarrassed everyone. No. They're all going to think, let them think. Nora looked at him. Victor stepped closer. You know what I see? She shook her head. Someone who is trying very hard to survive a world that keeps telling her she isn't good enough. Her eyes filled again. I don't belong with these people. Victor shook his head. You're wrong. He looked toward the ballroom. Some of the people in there have more money than they know what to do with. Then he looked back at her. But very few have what you have. What? Character. Nora looked down. Before she could answer, Evelyn appeared. There you are. She smiled. Then she noticed Nora's tears. Her expression changed. Who hurt you? No one. Evelyn looked at Victor. He said nothing. Evelyn took Nora's hand. Come with me. I can't. You can. Evelyn led her back toward the ballroom. Nora hesitated at the doorway. Why are we going back? Evelyn squeezed her hand. Because you're not leaving ashamed. They walked onto the stage. The room quieted. Evelyn took the microphone. I want to introduce someone. Nora's heart began racing. This young woman once helped me when I was standing helplessly in the rain. People turned toward Nora. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know my name. She didn't know my family. She didn't know I had the ability to reward her. Nora lowered her eyes. She simply saw an elderly woman who needed help. The room became completely silent. That day, Evelyn said, she reminded me why this foundation exists, not for wealthy people to feel generous. She looked around the room, but for people to remember that every human being deserves dignity. A few guests looked uncomfortable. Evelyn turned toward Nora. This is Nora Bennett. Applause began, softly, then louder. Nora looked around, stunned. Victor stood beside the stage. His eyes were fixed on her. He smiled. For the first time, Nora didn't feel like an outsider. She felt seen. Vanessa stood near the back. Her jaw tightened. She slipped away before the applause ended. The following morning, Victor received a message. The security team had found something. A deleted access record had been recovered. Vanessa's credentials had been used to modify the document Nora sent. Victor stared at the evidence. He knew, but he wasn't ready to confront her yet. He wanted everything. Then, before he could continue the investigation, his phone rang. It was Evelyn's housekeeper. Her voice trembled. Sir, you need to come home. Victor stood immediately. What happened? Your mother collapsed. His face went pale. Call an ambulance. Already done. Victor grabbed his coat. Nora saw him rushing through the hallway. Victor? He stopped. My mother. Nora didn't ask anything else. I'm coming. You don't have to. I know. She followed him. The drive to the hospital was silent. Victor sat with both hands clasped tightly. For the first time, Nora saw the man beneath the billionaire. He looked terrified. At the hospital, doctors rushed Evelyn into emergency care. Victor paced the hallway. Nora stood beside him. Neither spoke. After nearly an hour, a doctor finally approached. She's stable. Victor closed his eyes. Thank God. But she experienced a serious cardiac episode. Nora's heart sank. Can we see her? Briefly. They entered the room together. Evelyn looked pale, but when she opened her eyes, she smiled. Victor. He took her hand. I'm here. Her eyes moved toward Nora. Nora. I'm here too. Evelyn slowly reached for Nora's hand. Then she joined their hands together. You two. She paused to breathe. Take care of each other. Victor's eyes widened. Mom. Promise me. Nora's eyes filled with tears. We promise. Evelyn smiled. Then she whispered something neither expected. Family isn't always the people you're born with. Her eyes closed. Victor looked at Nora. Neither spoke. Outside the room, the doctor called Victor aside. There is something else you need to know. Victor followed him. Nora remained beside Evelyn. She had no idea that the next truth would change everything. Victor stood in the hospital corridor listening to the doctor. Your mother needs rest. The episode was serious, but we believe she'll recover. Victor exhaled. Thank you. But she cannot be under extreme stress. Victor nodded. I understand. When he returned to the room, Nora was sitting beside Evelyn's bed. She was holding the older woman's hand. Victor stopped at the doorway. For several seconds, he simply watched. Nora looked up. Is she going to be okay? Yes, Nora smiled. Good. Victor walked toward the bed. Evelyn was sleeping peacefully. They stayed until evening. At one point, Victor sat beside Nora in the quiet hallway. You didn't have to stay. Nora looked at him. She stayed for me? Victor smiled faintly. You've been here for hours. So have you. That's different. How? He looked at her. I've spent my whole life taking care of her. Nora lowered her eyes. And now? Now I realize someone else is capable of doing it. They sat in silence. Then Victor said something Nora never expected. Thank you, she looked at him. For what? For helping her when you didn't have to, Nora smiled. I'd do it again. I know. The next morning, Evelyn was awake. Her first request was for Nora. You look tired, Nora laughed. So do you. Evelyn smiled. I like you. Victor, standing near the window, shook his head. Mom! What? You've been in the hospital for 1 day. And? And you're already matchmaking. Nora's cheeks turned red. Evelyn laughed. Victor smiled despite himself. For the first time in days, the room felt light. But outside the hospital, Victor's investigation had reached its conclusion. He called Grace. Bring Vanessa to my office. An hour later, Vanessa stood across from Victor's desk. What is this about? Victor placed several documents on the table. The donor email? Vanessa's face remained calm. I already explained that Nora made a mistake. No. Victor pushed another page forward. You made the mistake. Her expression changed. What? Your credentials were used to alter the file before Nora received it. Vanessa stared at the evidence. I don't know anything about that. Victor placed the final report on the table. Security recovered the deleted records. Silence. Vanessa's breathing changed. You can't prove. We already did. Her shoulders dropped. Victor looked at her. Why? Vanessa's eyes filled with anger. Why? She laughed bitterly. I spent 6 years here. I worked nights. I handled difficult donors. I protected your schedule. I gave everything to this foundation. Victor remained silent. Then she walks in from a cafe and suddenly your mother treats her like family. Victor's expression hardened. This was never about Nora. It was always about her, Vanessa's voice cracked. You looked at her differently, Victor stood. You destroyed an innocent person's reputation because you were jealous. Vanessa looked away. You were going to lose your position anyway. She stared at him. You're firing me? Yes, she swallowed. I understand. No, Victor said quietly. You don't. He opened the door. You weren't punished because you wanted recognition. You were punished because you were willing to hurt someone innocent to get it. Vanessa left. The door closed. Victor remained standing. For the first time in weeks, the foundation felt quiet. When Evelyn was discharged, she returned home under strict instructions to rest. Nora expected everything to return to normal. It didn't. Victor called her into his office. I want to discuss something. Nora sat down. Okay. We're expanding the foundation's community programs. She nodded. I heard. I want you to lead part of the expansion. Nora stared at him. Me? You've spent time with the families we serve. But I'm still learning. Everyone is. I don't have a degree in this. Victor leaned back. You have something more important. Nora smiled. What? You listen. She laughed softly. That's your qualification? It's a rare one. Nora looked at the proposal in front of her. It was more responsibility, more money, more opportunity, but also more pressure. She looked at Victor. Why are you giving me this? He was quiet for a moment. Because you earned it. Nora's eyes softened. Thank you. He nodded. She stood to leave. Nora, she turned. I've been thinking about the first day. The rain? Yes. Victor smiled. You walked away without even asking her name. I didn't need it. I know, he looked at her. That's what changed everything. Nora smiled. No, she changed everything. Victor shook his head. You did. She didn't know what to say, so she simply smiled. Months passed. Nora's life changed slowly. Not overnight, not magically. She still worked hard. She still woke early. She still made mistakes. But now she had stability. She helped design programs that provided school supplies, food assistance, and temporary housing support for struggling families. The little boy she had once met at the community center returned to school. His mother sent Nora a photograph. He was smiling. Nora saved it on her phone. Evelyn became healthier. Victor became less distant. And the relationship between Nora and Victor changed quietly. There were no grand declarations, no sudden promises, just small moments. Coffee before meetings, long conversations after charity events. Victor waiting for Nora before leaving the office. Nora reminding him to eat when he worked too long. Evelyn noticed everything. One afternoon she stood beside Nora near the garden. You know, she said, I always wondered what would happen after that rainy day. Nora smiled. So did I. You saved me. Nora shook her head. I just helped you cross a road. Evelyn looked at her. Sometimes that's all it takes. Nora thought about it. The road, the rain, the cafe, the bus she had missed, the SUV, the mansion, the foundation, the gala, the hospital. Everything had begun with one decision. She could have kept walking. Nobody would have blamed her. She had been tired. She had been broke. She had been thinking about her own problems. But she stopped, and that small decision had opened a door she never knew existed. Months later, Nora found herself walking past the same intersection where she had first met Evelyn. It was raining again, not heavily, just enough to make the pavement shine. Nora stopped at the corner. An elderly man stood nearby with a cane. He was waiting for the traffic. People rushed past him. Nobody noticed. Nora smiled. She stepped toward him. Sir? He looked up. Yes? Would you like some help crossing? The man smiled. If you don't mind. I don't. She offered her arm. He took it. Together they waited for the light. Nora glanced across the road. For a moment she remembered the woman she had once helped. She remembered Evelyn's words. Don't let this world make you lose your heart. The light changed. Nora guided the man across. When they reached the other side, he thanked her. "You're very kind." Nora smiled. "You're welcome." She walked away. Her phone vibrated. A message from Victor. "Where are you?" Nora smiled. She typed, "Helping someone. I'll be there soon." Another message appeared. "Of course you are," she laughed. Then she slipped her phone back into her bag. The city continued moving around her. Cars rushed past. People hurried toward buses and offices. Nobody stopped to notice the young woman walking through the rain. And Nora didn't need them to. She had learned something that money could never teach. Kindness was not valuable because someone rewarded it. Kindness was valuable because it revealed who you were when nobody was watching. One rainy afternoon, Nora had chosen to help a stranger. She thought she was simply helping an old woman cross a road. She never knew she was holding the hand of one of the most powerful women in the city. She never knew that woman would open a door. She never knew the door would lead to a career, a family, a new purpose, and a love she had never expected. But the greatest change wasn't the mansion. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the job. It wasn't even Victor. The greatest change was that Nora finally understood that her circumstances had never been a measure of her worth. She had been valuable before anyone powerful knew her name. And that was the lesson Evelyn had seen from the beginning. Sometimes life doesn't change because you become rich. Sometimes life changes because, in the middle of your own struggle, you choose to make someone else's struggle a little easier. Nora kept walking through the rain. This time, she wasn't walking toward an uncertain future. She was walking toward a life she had helped build herself. And somewhere behind her, the road remained exactly as it had always been. Busy, loud, unforgiving. But one person had stopped, and that one small act had changed everything.